Hello, welcome to Mecaniquesportive. I'm Nicolas. Today I'm presenting to you the new Skoda Enyaq 2025. You might have recognized it, but it has changed now. You've seen this front end. It has nothing to do with the old one anymore, the crystal face, etc.
And now there's no more chrome either. That specific grille is gone too.
They've taken what they introduced on the new L-Rock with what they've called the modern solid.
That's what it looks like, style-wise. The rest doesn't change, but on the other hand, we also have this new green. This green is pretty stylish. It looks like a rather dark olive green, quite original. I enjoy the unique dark color. People here tend to prefer dark shades. You don't really like it when it's flashy or punchy. Personally, I love that. It allows you to have something different from gray. Thank you, Skoda, for doing something a little different. And at the same time, there are still some more muted colors like you like. But anyway, here it is, the new Skoda Enyaq 2025.
As always, we'll do a full video showcasing all the updated features of this car, followed by a comprehensive test drive on various road types.
We'll also examine the consumption. I just spent 3 hours with it, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, let's get back to this new Enyaq 2025.
Starting from 46,270 euros, the sport utility vehicle version, which I personally prefer. The coupe version starts from 49,200 and is slightly more expensive than the base model. The coupe is more expensive because it comes directly to us here in France.
The panoramic glass roof is standard.
A fully loaded version comes to around 56,000 euros for the most powerful and most equipped version, the very best. So that's still almost 10,000 euros difference, which is quite significant. There will now be two versions, the 85 version and the 85X version. If I recall, we previously had the 80 versions, 85 and 85X, which gave us this slightly evolved new battery. We have new suppliers and the power goes up to 286 horsepower. For both versions, the 85 version is the one I have today. Rear-wheel drive only, so a 77 kilowatt-hour battery positioned under the floor as usual and a rear motor.
The 85X has two motors but maintains the same power.
They didn't want to make a much more powerful version. In both cases, it's 180 kilometers per hour max speed, and in both cases, 0 to 100 in 6.7 seconds. However, when it comes to charging, there is a difference. This one, the rear-wheel drive, charges slower than the all-wheel drive version. So I think that's a bit of a shame. Why? Because they're not from the same battery suppliers, so we don't have the same charger to power these two batteries. 135 kilowatts of charging for this one, 175 kilowatts of charging for the all-wheel drive version. In terms of range, there will be a small difference. 550 kilometers worldwide, harmonized light vehicles test procedure for the all-wheel drive version, about 590 for this rear-wheel drive version. The rear-wheel drive version consumes a little less, since there's one less motor to run.
During acceleration, it's only the rear motor running and not both motors, and also it makes the car a little lighter.
Also, which one would I recommend? The rear-wheel drive version is sufficient for most people, even those living in the mountains with good snow tires. It can do the job, but if you prefer an all-wheel drive, it can be, in certain conditions, a small advantage. Otherwise, rear-wheel drive will perform excellently. In fact, it's the version that will sell the most in France. 4 trims available on this car: the Element, the Clever, the Plus, and the Sportline. Today, I'm presenting the Sportline version, which brings a few little touches. A little nicer in terms of design. This green, which is one of the 9 colors available in the catalog. We have more wheel options, ranging from 19 inches up to 21 inches. We'll have, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was 8 or 9 wheel styles. 6 different interiors, different leathers. Sport seats, more comfortable seats. The seats always have a bit of brown on the side. I find it quite nice from Skoda to offer so much customization. It's a car that still measures 4.66 meters long, 1.88 meters wide, and 1.62 meters high. With a wheelbase of 9 feet, there should be space in the back. I'll sit there to show you how it looks. So in terms of new features, they made a little slide for us that I'm showing you here. You can see that we have new lights here, matrix ones, which are not in the same place as before. With 36 segments this time, that's an increase. Before, there were a lot fewer. We have a new part here. The part they call eyegloss black. So it's more chrome and with plastic parts. So this time it's glossy. It's painted in plastic with the light signature. Right here we have a camera right in the center
We also find the new Skoda lettering with the S, which changes here.
We also have vertical bars here with possible lighting.
The side part that we don't have on this Sportline version in a different color that I'm showing you here. For example, on this cross section and also the front part, which changes on the front splitter and will also affect the rear. That's different on the new Enyaq, but you can have it painted in the body color, and I have to admit it's much classier that way. And then a new grille here, very vertical, so it's quite a nice design. As you can see, I like it. It changes things up a bit. And what else is different?
It will be the lights, as I was telling you, which now are split into two sections and a part at the bottom and on the back.
We will have new lights with 5 segments now, which make the cars a bit different.
Just like we also have at the front with several segmented parts.
Also the new lettering at the back and on the coupe. There aren't really any big differences except for the side skirts.
Yes, it's available as a sport utility vehicle and a coupe.
I'm standing here at the back so you can see the little segmentation here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. Otherwise the headlight unit honestly looks pretty much like what was there before. And the rear, for me, is almost exactly the same. I think this part here changes a little bit. It's more plastic.
The Sportline is mentioned here, so the new S with Enyaq written in black. I think it looks good on the Sportline versions.
If I'm not mistaken, it's always in black and everything is painted all the way down. It's pretty nice.
However, I think the Sportline used to have the long strip across the front, if I'm not mistaken. Or perhaps only the Rally Sport versions did.
When it comes to the trunk, that's what interests us as well. With this type of car, of course, quite powerful.
There's also a nice little feature, even from the entry-level model, we have driving assistance with automatic adaptive cruise control.
Even on the first version, like wireless CarPlay, there are a few little options like that which weren't there before.
The trunk here, you can see that it's quite spacious. We have the rear shelf here. It's flexible.
When pressed, it folds back. On the side, there are charging cables and nets. Skoda always has many features.
The floor here is on 2 levels. You can access storage cables placed right here underneath. We have enough to always use Velcro to separate small accessories. We have ample storage on the sides, as you can see here. For example, with the cable that's placed inside, it's pretty handy to have a kind of thumb like this. Because if it rained and you put the cables inside, it helps keep the whole interior from getting a bit wet as well.
We have nets we can pull here to fold down the seat, which is in a 40-20-40 configuration with an extra ski hatch. We have nets over there and we have the triangle on this side.
We even have a little quick response code in the trunk that lets us find out what we might be dealing with, just like on my trunk. You know me, there you go. I know that when I don't do it, you're really not happy.
I put it back up there. Well, there you go.
We have 585 liters in this sport utility vehicle version, 570 liters in the coupe versions, 15 liters.
It doesn't make much difference, but I have to admit, I much prefer the real sport utility vehicle versions.
Like this, don't move. I'll take you directly to really see what it looks like, because you really get a better idea this way.
So here, the cables, here, some storage.
On the side, the little handles to fold down the beach thing. You can see there are nets here, there are nets there. We have plenty of options. Little hooks here to hang your bags so it doesn't fall. We have hooks here and here.
Look at how clever this is for hanging your shopping bags so that in turns or roundabouts, they don't fall.
We have 2 more on this side.
Anyway, these are all the little simply clever things from Skoda. There. Let's go. I'll close this.
The charging port is here. So the charging port looks like this then.
135 or 175?
At the back, that little 3/4 rear view like this. I'll quickly show it to you this way, since there aren't any big changes.
Actually, what I like about this Enyaq is that it looks a little bit like that, like an extended station wagon, but it also reminds me a bit of the Ford.
I think it was the S Max that looked similar to this with a station wagon shape. Raised up and all. I like it.
This color gives it a unique style. Today, we're discussing Michelin, Alpine Pilot 5, so the fuel consumption will also be a little higher.
Because of its tires, it slightly affects the impact on the side. What a good looking baby it is.
I really like the lines. They're very sharp. It really looks like a recent car. It's not too rounded, etc. In short, I like it because it's a sport line.
We have this little black insert
But this doesn't seem very well attached. The mirrors like this. We have 360-degree cameras that work really well. The rims. Today we have 20-inch wheels, disc brakes on all four corners, and air curtains at the front. And also, you can really see it directly here. That's to work on the aerodynamics. I'll give you a real close-up of the front. It looks like this. It really has style, honestly, in this color. It has a real Skoda look. Right here, there you go. And then I'm going to change the lens on the camera and take you to discover the interior. So in terms of the rear seats of this car, the rear door, no changes, still the same as before. We still have our little sunshades here, a carbon imitation, the same handles, the same interiors. The lower part is standard plastic, like what we have here, but we have a small extended section of faux leather here. We also have this very pleasant microfiber material. It still has the part that comes up nicely behind the knees, which I love. Skoda seems to be the only brand that offers top tether ISOFIX attachment on all three rear seats, allowing for 3 child seats. The interior is great. I come in here, I close up, it's cool outside, it feels good to get back inside. I'll raise my headrest. The headrest is the same, super comfortable. You can see the car is brand new, there's still plastic up there. Handles for all 4 passengers. I've got room for my knees, my feet, I've got space. My seat is raised up a little, the rails are slightly elevated so I can just fit the tip of my foot underneath. The sport seats are prominent and provide ample room for the head and shoulders, ensuring a comfortable experience. I've got an armrest here, but it's a bit hollowed out and a little hard as an armrest here. The cup holder at the front, which opens up like this, is actually higher than the armrest on the side. This bothers me a little because it makes me feel uncomfortable. At least we have an armrest, and on the other hand, the armrest is very comfortable along this whole part. The ski hatch, as I mentioned, is the one we're familiar with in the Volkswagen group. With this, you can easily access the trunk's contents, which is convenient when going on vacation. You can access the third seat belt directly from the highway and right onto the bench seat without stopping at the rest area. That's great, and like I was saying, these seats are just awesome. This part that comes up is really great because in the end it spreads your weight across your whole thigh, and that's much better. We have a compartment here. You can put some storage in it. I'm going to take it out. Does my foot fit here? No, size 44 doesn't fit here. It's a shame it was slightly off. This small compartment, great for storage, is on the floor. The middle seat appears very spacious, and it is. So it's quite soft. But we have a much softer foam here, which makes you sink in a little bit and you can feel something a bit firmer at the bottom. However, the backrest is very hard as it remains an armrest. I still have room for my legs and for my feet as well, especially if I wrap them around this central part. We still have both rear seats heated here with 3 settings and tri-zone climate control, so 2 zones for the front and 1 zone for the rear. Right here, the seats are honestly very pleasant, they're very beautiful, very soft and comfortable. We have good lateral support, the LEDs on each side. There, I'll open it. The windows are quite large. In short, it's pretty good. What do you think about it? I'll quickly show you the front again, then we'll try it out. I'll take you straight to the front seats, no car tour, as we've already done that. It really looks like what was there before. The same, a little bit of foam. And here, the carbon look part on the Sportline versions in this slightly padded area. Then some pretty standard plastic. The Canton sound system here, which is pretty good. 2 pedals since it's an automatic car. Of course, the seats. We have massaging electric seats. Basically, I think they're called Ergo Active at Volkswagen electric part. These are small adjustments for the back, just like the rear. It's all soft and very pleasant here. Sportline seat, so with this design, the headrests are directly integrated. And when I come inside, there are very few changes. You can also open the rear trunk directly here. The mirror controls and the windows are right here. The child safety lock in the back and the controls for the lights. It's located right here. We have an auto mode, of course, and if it rains, there's the fog light. And that with the cards here that you can put in. Here it's slightly carpeted on the inside. Then air vents on this side, 2 air vents in the center, 1 air vent over there, Always this wave here. That's something we know from Skoda. The big screen there, a screen here, a gigantic head-up display. I don't know if you can see it, but it takes up a huge amount of space. So the windshield, to me, it feels like it takes up all of that. So it makes me like the equivalent of this screen actually that shows up here when I'm driving. It's honestly really, really good.
The steering wheel, not much change, but now it says Skoda like this. So it's no longer the S on this part, it's new lettering. The Sportline, so we have a steering wheel with a flat bottom here, the little Sportline reminder there. Honestly, it's very pleasant to use with the nicely rounded perforated leather.
Small flat section here with 3 spokes. One side shows what happens on this screen, the other side shows the rest. The controls are for changing music and volume. The heated steering wheel is useful as there's snow visible in the back. The leather trim wraps around the interior. It has many cameras and driver assistance features, and the interior is padded. Anyway, we have a nice section, always some shortcuts here. To start the car, get in, press the brake, and the car will start. I have the assistance shortcuts here. I can go back there to my menu. The assistance like this, where I can basically adjust all the stuff. So, the blind spot warning, lane collision warning, speed adjustment without road. Should I set reminders to take breaks? And what about the sign reading? Speed warning that beeps at me if I exceed the limit. Then we have the driving modes, Eco Comfort, Normal, Sport or Individual, which I can adjust just like the Sportline version. This individual mode, that's how you set it. I think you have to display it in full screen. There you go, then adjust.
We have the dynamic chassis control on this chassis today, so the suspension is adjustable on 15 levels of firmness.
The steering is the same, Normal or Sport, the driving, the exterior. I think there's a little sound outside if you want, to make it more sporty. How do you want the air conditioning control to react? Do you also want the air conditioning to work more or less strongly? We can set it directly in the personal mode. Then there's a park assist that will help us. The warning button unlocking the climate control menu right here, front and rear defogging. Then we can see that we have 2 USB-C ports lower down, so there, with a phone charging, also a wireless charging port. On this side, double cup holder. That's still the little electric thing. The handbrake is there, so with the parking brake in that spot, we have a bit of space for the key. The key is still the same. It hasn't changed. The little thing for parking tokens. And underneath, we have this, so it still looks like the box you can adjust, and with yet another box you can adjust. Here inside, so we really have quite a bit of storage. That's still the Simply Clever thing from Skoda. And there you go, the seats, I already showed them to you. You can get the panoramic sunroof as an option on this one, whereas on the coupe, it will only be panoramic. On the top, we have the Save Our Souls button here. We have the light here if I want to turn it on, and the setting in the menus if I want it to work. With the opening of the doors, the small frameless mirror, the large side mirrors with the blind spot display, and the little thing to put your parking disc right here. Of course, you still have, unless they've taken it, the umbrella included in your door, which is pretty nice. We also have a large storage compartment underneath here, so a big storage bin is available. And then here's the glove box. The glove box is quite spacious. You can see like this, a 50 centiliter bottle fits in like this. So you could fit several in there, but it still gives you enough space to put quite a few bottles. I think you could maybe fit about 10. Yeah, not bad. Anyway, let's go try this car on the road. That's what interests me the most about this car. Here we go, let's go. So here we are on board this new Enyaq with Soufiane. Hello, Soufiane.
Hi, Nico.
Thank you for joining me on this journey.
You're welcome. With pleasure.
With this Enyaq, Soufiane, he's the one I was telling you about who does crazy tests on everything.
Yes, on everything.
It's pretty impressive. He puts thermometers everywhere and everything. Anyway, here's the war reporter. Here we are, setting off in this car, resetting everything to 0. You see what's interesting? You even do tests on consumption, charging, temperature. How long does that take? Here, you see the car we just started, showing its approximate fuel consumption. 1.7, 1.8 kilowatt hours.
Per hour for?
To charge, so basically it's like a heater at home. It uses 2000 watts, let's say. That's because it's not that cold outside. It's 7 degrees. We set it to 22.2. Maybe that's a bit warm. Let's set it to 21. That'll be good. That already gives you an idea of the consumption, but basically it uses about as much as a home heater to heat, except that it's smaller than a room in the house, so it'll heat up a little faster. There you go, and then we're off. We're at 95% battery with a reported range of 468 kilometers, and we're off. It's extremely quiet.
It's an electric car, right?
But sometimes some of them have a little...
Yes, the little pedestrian warning sound, and honestly, you can't hear it at all. It's well broadcast outside.
What I really appreciate is the soundproofing. In some cars, the noise gets into the cabin, which can be overwhelming.
Yeah, or it bounces back, or there's that fake sound like a flying saucer. Like I had on the Audi A6 that I returned not too long ago. Which gets tiring after a while.
Please turn left in 100 meters and continue to follow the road towards...
There you go, because she's nice too, but I prefer it when it's quiet because of that calm. That's what I love about electric cars, but I also love having a V12 roaring behind me. But for everyday comfort, it's this one. Sometimes it's complicated. Yeah, otherwise we go back to the hotel where we didn't sleep. All right, let's go. Of course, as you know, it accelerates well. That's nice. The kicks, so not much has been changed. It's mainly an exterior restyling. They changed the battery from what they told us. So there's a small difference with the suppliers, but it's not something you'll necessarily notice. The old one was already pretty good. It was quite energy efficient. It had a pretty good performance. Perhaps they've enhanced it slightly with each iteration, resulting in better battery pack temperatures and other improvements. Which means we get better efficiency or slightly improved range, and sometimes the motors also evolve a little bit. That's it. It's more electronically optimized rather than the car itself really changing. You see, there are some really simple things, but I like the subtle turn signal. With some brands, it's just tick, tick, tick.
Yeah, you should try the one from a Lucid Air then. It's awful, that's a shame, it's awful.
Of course, we have the driving aids. There's a new assist feature that just came out. There, 50. That was a 50 zone. Now he knows it's 70. Does he enable the sign reading? No, it's linked, but it doesn't automatically set the speed. We can adjust it. So we have the assist feature. Version 2.6, which has just been updated, now allows communication with other cars from the Volkswagen group to warn, caution, and anticipate. Oh yes, it reads the signs for me, so now it's back to 50. So it goes to 50, it sets itself to the speed limit. That's pretty good. Do you like all these driving aids with sign reading and so on?
I'm not a fan. I try them because I have to. You have to talk about them. You have to try them. You have to see how the technology evolves, how it compares to the competition. But it takes over too quickly. So again, not all brands are in the same boat. But generally it takes over.
There, for example, you see it can be a little scary.
Typically, like right now, we're shaken up. If we had been driving in manual mode from the start, we would have anticipated it. We tend to rely too much on these driving aids. I drive a lot, especially on the highway. And actually, we lose our concentration. We trust the technology, we do something else, and then we get caught off guard.
It's true that here, for example, like this, it was a turn that was still pretty sharp. And they still have trouble predicting what's happening over there.
Yeah.
Often it's cameras that are really facing directly, so there are some that anticipate lane changes and other things a little bit. I think Tesla is pretty good, but I hate their driving assistance features. The lane changing and all that is horrible.
Yeah, it's not really up to par. So apparently you have to know how to use it, but I don't know, I drive a lot of miles with it and it's never really convinced me.
But you see, for example, having the adaptive cruise control here in these conditions, I think that's great.
Yes, in certain conditions it's great. Well, like here, it's a little bit congested when I drive at night. I'm glad to have a lane assist that puts me back on track a little bit. If my attention drops because of fatigue, things like that, but it's true that the rest of the time...
But you see, I just looked right now. Actually, I have the travel assist like this, and actually I don't. Yes, I have the air conditioning controller. I just have the semi-auto. I don't have the proper travel assist that keeps me in the lanes.
It's a shame because I really like the lane centering. However, Adaptive cruise control is now standard on this car, which it wasn't before.
So even the entry-level version now has adaptive cruise control.
But you'll still have to pay for the travel assist package to get everything with lane centering. But I'll check because that seems strange to me. Okay, so now we're at 50 kilometers per hour. It detected a 110, you see that too? That's the problem with... Sometimes the sign readings work well, sometimes they don't work so well. For example, I didn't see the 110 sign at all.
No, there isn't one, and it's not likely to be 110 here. The last time I really stopped using these systems, I was on the highway at 130 kilometers per hour in the right lane. The system picked up the 70 for the highway exit, and it made the car brake hard because on top of that the system had no gradualness. And you see, it made me brake hard, and the other person was behind me. Well, he was tailgating me a little bit, so from there I told myself, okay, these things, we're just going to try them out. I drive autonomously for 50 to 100 kilometers, then switch back to manual driving.
Afterwards, it actually gets a lot better.
I think, but there's always a little thing sometimes where there's a sign from I don't know where. That's why I still prefer to have adaptive cruise control and so on. But we set the speed ourselves.
Once you set it yourself, it's good. Even without the sign reading, it's better. It just detected 110 again for me on the highway now.
At 50, it was very quiet. Now we're at 100 kilometers per hour.
I think it's really well soundproofed.
Yes, it's well soundproofed, an Enyaq in general.
We don't have any wind noise. Here we're at 90 behind a truck. The rolling noises are very well contained.
Yeah, considering we're on winter tires.
Plus we have winter tires, so these are tires with special studs. The rubber is softer, so it grips a little more, and honestly, it's pretty good. We can slightly hear what's happening because, if I remember correctly, oh yes, yet we have somewhat laminated windows. No, it's really well soundproofed, and the wind noise and everything, it's still very comfortable. You may wonder what's left for slightly more premium brands, even from the same group, compared to this.
Yeah, we ask ourselves that because honestly, you've tried the latest Skoda products, the Kodiaq, the Octavia.
And everything is really good. At Skoda, and I tell myself, Skoda is the brand that's really on the rise. Just like back home, they're really everywhere here in the Czech Republic. Peugeot and Renault here, they're everywhere, and there are fewer Volkswagens and all that. So, sure, it's made in the country, but I think there's a real interest in getting a Skoda, right?
Yes. You can see it, the finish is decent.
You have the same chassis as the others, you have the same engines, you have the same stuff, and you have a finish that's honestly very nice. And the others don't necessarily have that. You see the laminated windows, etc.
And above all, what's good, and I can see it, is the difference with the other products from the group. It's the physical buttons on the steering wheel with the little rollers and everything, even for raising the windows. It's not touch sensitive like you find at Volkswagen, for example.
Exactly, and Volkswagen is actually going back to that lately. They realized their mistake. The touch-sensitive and tactile features are funny, nice, stylish, and modern, but not practical at all.
Having the piano keys as physical shortcuts on real buttons is so nice, even here.
So here we are, 130.
There isn't more noise than before.
Many trucks here, 3 going uphill. Honestly, it's really good, and I really like Skoda.
There. The new Passat seems to have been based on the Superb rather than the Superb being derived from the Passat, as was typically the case. They're now claiming they actually do some good things. And even at 130 there, even though the asphalt isn't necessarily very smooth.
No, you can barely hear the gears.
The suspension is very comfortable and the ride is barely noticeable.
It's an electric car that encourages you to hit the road naturally. You'll need to stop and recharge occasionally.
It goes up to 185 kilowatts of charging, if I'm not mistaken, or 180.
I didn't review the technical sheet. We're in that range.
So, we checked, that's correct. 135 kilowatts of charging on this rear-wheel drive version and 175 on the all-wheel drive version, which was actually the opposite before.
It seems to me there was something like that before, because depending on the version, even if the battery is listed as 77 kilowatt hours, They're not the same suppliers, they're not the same cells, so they're not the same charging power. What is certain is that today, this one has 135 kilowatts, and we can deduce it doesn't have the ESCA battery, like the one on the Volkswagen ID.7, for example, which can go up to 170 kilowatts. In any case, it's rated at 170 kilowatts, and you can even see a bit more power at the charging stations.
Okay, all right, that's interesting.
Ideally, charging speed should be faster, and nowadays 175 isn't that impressive. You see, there are cars now that go up to almost 300.
Yeah, of course, but after 300 you need to have an 800 volt architecture, and above all, be cautious with the announced peak values as well. For example, Tesla, which announces 250 kilowatts peak, when all the planets are aligned, we observe it only for a few seconds, and then the curve goes down.
It's really a peak.
You have to plug it in when it's below 10% battery. So in everyday life, you don't see it happen all the time. In the end, the battery drains quickly. Charging isn't very fast with Tesla either, at least for a Model 3 long range, to be specific. So other cars claim a much more modest peak, but on the other hand, it forms a plateau all along. And in the end, in terms of average power, it comes out to the same.
Okay, the most important thing, what I see as a customer, is how long I'm going to stay at the charging station. That's what matters most to me.
Let's say that for most cars, it's about half an hour.
That's the big average.
For the 800 volt cars, it's about 20 minutes, more or less. Some say 16, 18 minutes. Well, that's the same. That's under optimal conditions, etc.
Often it's around 20 minutes for those who get 16 or 18 minutes, and it's about 30 to 35 minutes for those who say half an hour.
Yes, that's it.
Reality check, 10 at 80%. Caution, some brands claim 20-80%.
That still makes a difference, 10%.
That makes a small difference, yes.
We've driven off for nearly 62 miles. We'll see the actual consumption impact. Already lost 5% battery.
Now we have to keep going. And to check the consumption, what I don't like is that I don't have, you see, for example, a little consumption indicator here.
You should have it, I think, maybe not. Oh yes, there.
It's good for now. Average at 19.8 over 16 kilometers.
We drove on the highway with speeds ranging from 120 to 130 and covered a significant portion of it this morning.
We'll see the outcome, but let's be realistic. We've witnessed it in all situations.
Electric cars, what's a bit unfortunate is that compared to gas-powered cars, you could say, well, in 6th gear, I'm at this ratio, I'm at this many RPMs in 5th, that's how it is, that's the acceleration, and that's it. Actually, they're all good, they're all soundproofed, some better than others, but the engines, in any case, you know you're ready, and be careful, they still accelerate really well. 286 horsepower. Not long ago, that was the power of a BMW M3.
Yeah, that's it.
Today we have that in an ordinary person's car, everyone, so it's still pretty impressive. It's not the most powerful. Even the 85X version only has 286 horsepower. They said to themselves, let's keep the same power. Why not? Because clearly we don't need more. Otherwise, just buy a version directly from Audi. The Rally Sport that reigns, which does 900 and something, or the Taycan Turbo Grand Touring with 1,100 horsepower, I think.
Yes, at a little over 1,000 for 2 seconds, just to clarify.
It's uncommon to use 1,000 horsepower for over 2 seconds, as you'd likely be in jail by then.
Yes, ultimately it delivers a peak of intensity.
It's the boost.
It only lasts 2 seconds before dropping to much lower power, or you have it for 10 seconds, then it drops back down to the power.
Standard.
But it still has around 800 and some horsepower, which is not sluggish at all either.
What's nice is that it tells me section of measurement, so boom, close. And it warns us here that there are speed cameras. That's pretty nice in the Czech Republic. In France, we don't have that. We have Waze.
If you want to get a little idea as well.
Inside we have a little strip here that we had, and in the doors there.
However, you can still hear quite a bit of what's happening in the tunnels. There are still a lot of big trucks.
Yeah, I can't imagine if I were in my Saxo. In my opinion, it would be very noisy. And what is honestly still missing, for me, if it had been my car, I would have taken the travel assist with lane centering. It's a shame not to have it, or maybe we couldn't find it, but normally it should activate automatically when selecting these assists here.
We'll stop, we'll ask if worst comes to worst.
Okay, we have it. It's just that I hadn't selected it. It wasn't highlighted in green, so it's fine.
I have my travel assist, so that's how it is. Sorry for lying. We discover the cars pretty quickly, since we only keep them for about a day.
It's complicated to know everything right away.
And we go through so many that we don't even know who does what anymore.
Exactly. Waking up this morning at 4 a.m. was a bit brutal.
At 4 in the morning, sleeping in?
So in the end, I have everything I need.
We'll test the lane change, but you must drive over 56 miles each.
So it read my 100 sign, and now it shows me in the head-up display that I can change lanes.
Let's try it. Oh, this is so nice. It's amazing.
It changed lanes smoothly.
He's the one who made the lane change.
It was imperceptible. It was so good.
Yeah, I admit it. On the passenger side, I didn't feel anything.
I remember the Tesla last week. It was horrible. They stopped the highway. Seriously, they put a traffic light on the highway. Everyone had to stop.
Wait, second lane change.
We have to turn right, so no, it's not going to do it.
But there you go now. Is it really useful?
It's not really useful. Personally, I like it. You put your own turn signal, you do it yourself. Why not? It's a bit of a gadget that appeals to tech enthusiasts. Honestly, it was great, but needs further testing. What happens if I don't touch the steering wheel or anything while driving? There's not many people behind. There's a truck pretty far away. What is it going to do? I fell asleep.
She taps the brakes a little.
A little tap on the brakes. Oh, the seatbelt. Oh, the seatbelt. That's what happened. I'd never seen that before.
So the warning, and she comes to a gentle stop, and she even honks the horn.
She's the one who honked the horn?
Yes, it's her to warn. And so normally when stopped like that, she keeps honking.
But this time, instead of the usual click-click of her seatbelt, she went click-click-click-click.
Normally that wakes you up.
Yeah, you're not about to fall asleep with that.
That's not bad. I like when assistants are made that way.
So she put on the hazard lights and stopped with the horn honking to warn the people around. Careful, there's someone who fell asleep, or who died, or who had a stroke, or whatever.
Yes, that's very useful. Do you have any stats on the number of fatal accidents caused by falling asleep at the wheel? The numbers are crazy, apparently. I don't remember the exact number, but it's still a big part.
That's where it gets interesting. On the highway, just imagine you have your driving aids and the fact that you feel reassured.
By saying that, even if you fall asleep, because in the end you just leave your hand there, you can sleep.
The car, it does its thing all the way to the toll booth, you know? And after a while, if you really fall asleep, the car tells you, no, at some point you have to wake up, we're going to turn on the hazard lights, etc.
Like I told you, when I drive at night, I activate the lane centering because you're never completely safe. You side a little bit at one point or another, and it's good to have
a little nudge.
Yeah, a little reminder that wakes you up a bit and brings you back in line.
For that, it's true that technology is still quite interesting, since it helps with your safety.
However, certain features like beeping and speed limiters can be overly intrusive at times. I left it on. It's fine in the Czech Republic. We don't have many 30 signs. It's not intrusive, whereas back home it's unbearable, you know, because we have so many signs.
Sometimes on one street you change speed 14 times, alternating between 50, 30 and 70. You think to yourself, this can't be real?
And then you have the sensitivity of some cars, typically Chinese cars. If you go over by 1 kilometer per hour, it's chaos inside, it beeps everywhere.
And the worst part is, some cars, you set the adaptive cruise control to 70, and then, for example, it suddenly shows 50, even though it's 80, so it slows down.
I don't know why. The truck behind must hate me because he's accelerating.
You made him brake right in the middle of a slope too.
The system incorrectly set the speed limit to 50 based on a city sign, even though we were on a road with an 80 limit.
There you go, and now it puts me back to 90, even though I didn't see any 90 signs, so I like it. But we're going to disable that.
Turn it off for navigation.
Sign reading.
Speed warning. We're going to disable that and the speed limiter anyway. Now we're going down.
We're arriving at 27 kilometers. We have 17.7 kilowatt hours per 100. We'll see what it looks like when we get there.
When we get there, we'll have done almost 90 kilometers and we'll continue this afternoon another 3 hours of driving.
I'll get back to you as soon as we've arrived there. So slightly uphill and on the highway. 0 to 100, it accelerates well.
30, 40, 50, 67, 80, 100, that's fast. We've got some good stats.
286 horsepower rear-wheel drive. When it's not wet, it goes really well. Its traction is very good anyway. There are also all the driving aids. I think it's 6.7 seconds.
We timed it at 7 seconds. Considering the minor variations and the slope, it's consistent and makes sense.
So no, it works well. Like I said, actually, we really don't need more. It's the right car for everything. All right, this time, I'll really get back to you when we get there with the final consumption numbers.
We're back up to 19.5 over 35 kilometers.
So we did 114 kilometers with a mix, but almost all of it on the highway. Then we maybe did 10 kilometers on small country roads at 80, 90, with an average of 20.7 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. And I have 63% left. So let's say we use 20% over 114 kilometers. Let's say 110 kilometers. So we got back on the road. Now we've been driving for 2 hours and 20 minutes in total.
177 kilometers, 21.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Here we're on small roads. The Sportline trim features adaptive suspension, which has been very comfortable so far. What are your thoughts, Soufiane?
Yes, of course, it's still very comfortable and the roads are really smooth. Here it's like a billiard table. And yeah, it's always more comfortable than truly dynamic. Oh, actually, we're still a notch below a Scenic, for example, in terms of dynamism.
It's heavier too.
It's much heavier. Yeah, it's much heavier indeed. But on the other hand, it's comfortable. We feel at ease.
The roads are really nice in the Czech Republic. We're heading towards Austria now. It's the same. I like to turn my driving assist back on.
The predictive cruise control works well. It slows down for tight turns and other obstacles.
Anyway, you know me, I like the advertised range. Here it says there are 186 kilometers left with 43% battery. So we've used about 40% of the battery. So I'll tell you when we get to 50%, that'll give us a real idea of what we can do.
Because we just have to multiply by 2. Then, to get an idea with 100%, really compare it to what's real.
Soufiane, you drove for about an hour there. And also, Soufiane drives a little faster than I do. I'm a bit more relaxed, like an old man, where I really let the driving aids do the work. But you can feel that it's going well. We haven't tried changing the modes yet, since there are several modes. There's the sport mode. The sport mode makes the steering a little bit firmer, and you can still feel that.
Yeah, it hits a little harder.
There are kind of jolts.
If we go harder, you can really feel that something is happening in sport mode.
For me, except for having a bit of fun, I don't see the point. I like comfort mode, eco mode.
Him, on the other hand, you see, it's really something else.
Yeah, it's less relaxed.
In sport mode, we hit our heads. It's really eco. It's designed to consume much less.
Do we really need that? We can still manage our accelerator pedal.
Eco mode is really for a much smoother and more gradual transition when you accelerate. Eco mode,
it doesn't bother me, for example, on country roads like this.
It's fine for me. I don't need sport mode or anything else except maybe on small mountain roads.
I hope we'll find some so we can see how it handles dynamically, but it seems pretty good.
For the power we use, eco mode might be enough, honestly. We just need to make sure it doesn't change the air conditioning settings. I know that some eco modes turn off the air conditioning or change the settings a bit so you can quickly get cold or hot depending on the season. But here it doesn't seem to have changed, apparently.
The temperature here is a comfortable 5.5 degrees. However, it's getting colder as we ascend in altitude.
And that's also why the consumption remains high.
What I'd really like, on the other hand, is to keep this car tomorrow because we might change cars tomorrow to go back to the airport. But what would have been interesting is that we left from Prague and actually now we're going up into the mountains. So obviously the fuel consumption will be a bit higher than if we had stayed on flat ground or if we had done something like Paris-Lyon-Paris, for example.
Since we return to the starting value to 0, right? Whereas here we're only going uphill.
Yes, it's the unfavorable route.
So maybe we'll have to anticipate this overconsumption, and I couldn't tell you exactly. Maybe I'll ask Siri in a bit what our altitude is and what the altitude of the city of Prague is.
That could be interesting. Excuse me, small mistake on my part. We didn't leave at 85%.
I hope you put it in the comments. I'm counting on you that you're following closely. We left at 95%.
So that means that earlier we had already used up 50% of the battery. And so I did 184 kilometers in the long run. So let's say we take away.
There we used up
3%, let's say we take away 20 kilometers, let's say 160 kilometers, so that makes 360. That's what you calculated earlier. About there, you were saying, with the consumption.
If I take the consumption relative to the known battery capacity, the usable capacity, 77 kilowatt hours, yeah, that makes 360 kilometers in these conditions.
So what was announced is really in the best conditions, like small roads like this at 80, you know, without highways, without really heavy acceleration and so on. In eco mode, based on the worldwide harmonized light vehicles test procedure standard, it's not in sport mode. There aren't many highways, possibly a small part, but it seems to be mostly downhill. So in the end, 100% battery on the mix we have.
Knowing that, I'm telling you, it's a road that goes uphill. It's pretty hilly here as well, so we'll end up doing this sort of 360 kilometers.
For real, you know. In my opinion, it can work. Again, it all depends on where you live. That's definitely going to make a difference. Well, I don't think that's crazy. It's still a 77 battery, not like some cars now with 100 kilowatt hour batteries.
Even up to the Hummer electric vehicle, which I did with a 212 kilowatt hour battery.
That was crazy.
It's huge. With a car that weighs 4 tons, it was unreasonable. 900 horsepower, but why not? I think that compared to the old Enyaq, maybe there have been some improvements made. I have to admit, for us on the trip, in terms of battery and engine, we probably won't really notice it today because it's the same.
The heater is running because it's only 5 degrees outside, so you must continue heating.
Yeah.
It's still a really good car. Let's say what really changes for you is the style, which evolves a little bit.
But they weren't going to completely change the car, since it was already a really good car to begin with. So there you go. I'll get back to you as soon as we get to the end to do a little recap, and that will give us a really good idea. A little test, also a bit off-road.
Here, we're in a parking lot where the ground is pretty rough, with dirt, rocks, stones, and so on.
Since we have the adaptive suspension, to be honest, it's really very comfortable. It's pleasant. The turning radius is pretty decent, which is a nice point for a sport utility vehicle of this size. So overall, adaptive suspension.
As usual, I highly recommend it to you. Don't hesitate if you like this kind of thing.
So here I am. I've arrived at the hotel. We've been driving. So now let's adjust the settings, the vehicle. The long term, 3 hours, 219 kilometers, 20.2 kilowatt hours on average.
Knowing it's an uphill climb in the cool mountains at high altitude with some snow still present in places.
Over 3 hours at 0.2 starting from Prague. By the way, when I got here, I asked, "Hey Siri, what's my altitude?"
You are about 743 meters above sea level.
Okay, hey Siri.
At what altitude is the city of Prague located?
Minimum 177 meters and maximum 400 meters. So there is still a bit of elevation difference.
Well, not that much. I was expecting a bit more, but it does make a slight difference, of course.
So, I'm going to put it back in the parking lot over there. What do we think about this new Enyaq? Honestly, just like the old one, it's still a good car, it's comfortable. The adaptive suspension, I still recommend it. It's definitely a real advantage. And well, there you go. Now you have the fuel consumption figures. The car remains largely the same, with a facelift primarily focused on the front end. The rear has only undergone very minimal changes.
There's still the coupe version or the sport utility vehicle like this. It's up to you to choose.
Let me know your thoughts and give a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. See you in the next video. Bye.